Chapter 11. Ginger realizes that he is talking to himself. I arrive back at the base later this day. I go straight to the flight lieutenant's office. I open the door without knocking first. As I enter, the flight lieutenant looks up from the paperwork that he is doing. He does not seem too surprised by this intrusion. "Ah, Jeeves, there you are. Might as well give you your mission briefing now," says our flighty. I look around for some pen and paper. No, I can't see any. I'll just have to commit it to memory, hopefully to be remembered at a later time. "Ready and waiting for your orders, sir." Flight Lieutenant Johnson shuffles around in his chair, decides on leaning forward across the desk. Good. I want you to kick some Martian butt." He leans back in his chair and smiles. I wait for him to carry on. "Is that it? Can you elaborate on that, perhaps?" He picks up a pen and starts tapping it on his knuckles. "Is there anything else, sir? Or is that it?" I have to ask this as I need to get out now. The desk is transforming into a giant, unrecognizable shape that's just throbbing and pulsing and retching. But I need not fear, as after 2 seconds, it mutates back into what I recognize as a desk. It looks smugly at me, knowing my fear. I daren't take my eyes off it. "There is a little bit more. I want you to have your squadron ready for 0600 hours. This should allow ample time to get to London. Then, the second you see one of those alien craft, I want you to attack." "Attack? But how do you know they won't just surrender straight away?" The desk is beginning to pulse again. My heart starts beating faster in anticipation of the worst. The desk knows this and starts its pulsing to match the rhythm of my heart. "My orders from the PM are to attack, and this is what I'm telling you to do." "But how will we know when they arrive? What do they look like? Have you got any photographs of these aliens?" The flight lieutenant goes through some of the papers on his desk, which remain still and in its original form, until he finds what he is looking for. He passes some of the photographs to myself, and I take them cautiously. My eyes are kept firmly on the desk. "Yes, here they are. Sorry that they are blurred. They were moving too fast for our cameras to pick up most of the time. But here's one where they were still." I'm not looking at the photographs, but I'm already beginning to get a bit worried. "Fast as in faster than our aircraft?" "Oh, much faster, I'm afraid." Darn. I wait until I feel that the desk will pose no more threat to me, or even the flight lieutenant. I stand there looking at it for 65,748 seconds, and eventually I deem it safe. I look at the photographs. They are really unclear. I can make out black streaks. These, compared to the black streaks at the bottom of each picture, which I guess are buildings, don't look too large. Maybe the size of a bus, but certainly larger than our craft. There is one that is motionless, and contrasted to an image of Buckingham Palace, which is currently moving all around the picture, I believe my estimations to be accurate. Something grabs my eye. "Jeepers creepers! Look at the guns on that one! I must protest. We're going to get plastered." I place the photos on the desk, which, although I can see it, fails to be there. My hand and the photos just go through. So I end up putting them on the floor before quickly snapping my hand back through the table, just in case it wants to trap my hand or something. "Yes, well, no need to worry. Every active squadron within a reasonable distance of London is to accompany you to your The flight lieutenant pauses whilst trying to find a suitable word. Somehow, slaughter and regurgitation keep coming to my mind. Your confrontation. We will also be sending along ground troops, soldiers and all that, as a last hope. But they are only to be used once the last pilot has been shot down. We don't want to go around shooting our own troops now, do we? The flight lieutenant smiles. The table smiles. Yikes! Don't worry, lad. It won't be as bad as all that. Besides, I believe that you'll find the phrase is flattened, not plastered. What do you bally well mean, sir? I am visibly shaking by now, but that's only partly fear for the coming mission. For what is currently happening to me right now is that the desk has grown arms, embraced me, and is shaking me all over the place. My head bumps on the ceiling, then the door, then a chair, which just laughs at me and stuff. Well, if you fall from that height, you're bound to end up flattened when you hit the floor, especially if your plane lands on you, splattered if you like, which is almost an anagram of plastered, but with an extra T, I think. He stops to think. Yes. Gee, sir, you really know how to make a chap feel confident, don't you? Cheer up, old bean. It won't be as bad as all that, you know. I remember when we used to do this kind of thing. Johnson gives another encouraging smile, which consists of just showing a lot of teeth. Ha! He moves forward in his seat again. A more serious look on his face has appeared. I'm sure you'll come through. Besides, you've got to do this. It's for your country and your world. Yes, but will I come through alive is what I want to know. And will there be anyone left alive to thank me? I know that desk won't thank me. I know what'll cheer you up. A good joke. What's the difference between an alien and a Bosch? Well, there isn't one. They are both ugly bastards. Oh, you've heard it before, then. Never mind, says Johnson, obviously disappointed. Well, no, sir. I just seem to have an uncanny knack for knowing the punchlines to pathetic jokes, I say rather nastily. My wit is drying out a bit, but the sarcasm is lost on L-Flighty anyway. I take a couple of deep breaths to calm myself down a bit. I wish it was the Germans we were fighting. At least then we might possibly be able to stay alive for longer than 2 minutes. I mean, these aliens have travelled halfway across the universe. We can't even get into space. That at least suggests some kind of superiority. Plus, they've got big guns, really big guns. By this time, the flight lieutenant is staring vacantly out the window, thinking about whatever the flight lieutenant thinks about. The desk has left the room to go to the toilet or something. But I see something, some red sauce. I pick it up, pull up my sleeve to expose my bicep, and pour it onto the arm. It acts like blood, running down my arm, forming rivers, droplets picking up more momentum when they join together. But as soon as a river is there, it will stay, drying and crusting. But it hasn't got to that point yet. Before the flight lieutenant turns around, I pull on my best jacket, which, unfortunately, happens to be a pale cream colour and not very thick. Where it touches the skin and red sauce, it absorbs through so that a red stain is clearly visible on the outside of the jacket. Shit, I don't want anyone to see it or know about it. The flight lieutenant has turned to face me, and we're talking again, but I have to have my arm turned away from him at all times. It feels like it's stopped now, so at least there won't be any drops falling on the floor now that it's drying up. I try to look as casual as possible, which is hard when you're talking to someone sideways. The desk makes a comeback, giving me an excuse to leave. I get out of the room without him seeing the stain. Yet, I have been told to report to one of the briefing rooms where some of my men are waiting for me. I enter into the briefing room. There are a small number of men sitting around, having a smoke and a chat. They get up and go to their seats as they see me enter. I decide to get right down to the plan, as opposed to putting them off by telling them exactly who or what we are to be fighting. Rightio then, chaps. Here's the plan. We take off tomorrow at 0600 hours. One of the pilots stands up to protest. He disappears right in front of my eyes. But sir, it's Christmas Day tomorrow. I've arranged to spend the day with my family. I'm already having to put off plans I had made for tonight. I don't want any practice flight. Not tomorrow. There is a small murmur of agreement from the rest of the pilots, who keep individually fading into my view before disappearing again. I recognize the first pilot purely by voice, as he has a distinct nasal tonation. This ain't no bally practice run, I'm afraid, Connor, I say. I look to the rest of the room. They've gone. They've all gone. I peer under desks, under chairs, but there is no one to be seen. I trip over someone's foot, but he's run off before I even get the chance to see who it was. But if people still seem to be around, I'll carry on. You all know that London was under attack this morning, don't you? There is laughter, but it sounds distant, distorted. It sounds like it's from another room, somewhere at the opposite end of the building. What? By these alien chaps? This voice appears behind me. I spin rapidly around. No one there. Just a chalkboard. I spin around again. I see Connor. His voice must have echoed off the wall behind me. Why didn't I hear it coming? Shit. Is he the only other person in existence? Yes, that's right, says I, though I don't know where I'm saying it to. So I aim my voice up at the ceiling so it should bounce back down and cover most of the room. A second voice, Philip's, I think, comes from the floor. Whoever, it sounds more serious time. But I thought that was a joke. Urgent, a need to believe. I get onto the floor. I wipe away some of the dust. I scream as loud as I can through to the floor below. I can barely tell you now, having been called from my leave, seeing orders from the Prime Minister, this certainly is darn well not a joke. The voice comes back. I can just about hear it. I think he might not be on the floor underneath, but the floor underneath that. The building becomes a 1,000-story building with me on top and him at the bottom. But quietly, faintly, I can hear his voice, just a gasp. But I thought that was a joke. The voice from the back of the wall hits me again. You mean there really are aliens? Wow, says Connor. He isn't excited, but shocked. This time, however, I'm beginning to be able to work out his position from the way that the reverberations come off the wall. Judging that it's towards one of the corners, I position myself at the opposite corner. I cup my hands to my mouth, judge the angle to bounce my voice off the ceiling, and say, I'm afraid so, and it's up to us to stop them. My voice acting like a snooker ball. I don't know if it went into the right pocket, but somebody heard it as Philip's voice comes back through the floor. But why do we have to leave at 6 a.m. tomorrow? To get to London by the 0630 deadline that we've been given. What am I doing? I feel a fool. I pick myself up off the floor and dust myself off. I stand there, unable to know what to do. What am I doing? I'm standing here talking to, as far as I'm aware, a small group of men. But I can't see them, only hear them. And when I do hear them, they appear not to be in the room, or maybe a different part of it, perhaps hiding. But I'm looking a fool because I'm responding to where I think they are. And I think they are in this room, otherwise the voices I've heard would have to be weird coincidences. I feel the room fall back down to its proper place on the third floor. My ears pop. I can hear a bit more clearly now. In fact, the next voice I hear, Philip's again, seems to come from the chair he was sitting in before he disappeared. And he says, "Deadline for what exactly? Either we surrender to the aliens, or we fight them." I say this calmly, reassuringly, to reassure him. But it doesn't seem to work. My voice just spirals out in front of me, zooming away, hitting each wall, hitting the opposite wall, bouncing backwards and forwards. Backwards and forwards. My voice lost in the echoes the multiples have produced. I can't even hear me clearly, and I know what I said. "And we're fighting them?" Phillips is starting to get worried by now. I am too, but I'm not sure if we worry for the same reasons. I think he's worried by what's going to happen. I'm worried by what is happening. That's correct. Only this time I don't put the force into it that I did last time. My voice echoes out, but I feel small, worthless, and so does my voice. It spreads out but weakens by every millimeter, rapidly declining, becoming nothing. A third pilot speaks, breaking the silence. He doesn't speak much, but it comes as such a great feeling. I feel heard. He says, "What would happen if we were to surrender?" Most probably that they would start killing people ruthlessly and then take over rule of each country on Earth. I'm beginning to feel crowded now. I'm still searching for those faces, the ones that I can't see. But it doesn't feel like they've disappeared anymore. I feel I can be more relaxed now, knowing that they are in the room, they are talking to me, but I still question why I can't see them. "And if we fight and lose?" "Most probably do the exact same thing." There is a pause. It's not a long pause, but it's certainly a big pause. There are only 4 other men in this room, but it feels like the pause of 100, if not 1,000 people, rather than just a handful of people taking in what was said. It feels to me like the reason I can't see these 4 men is that they have been crowded out by 100 different other invisible faces. Ghosts or souls, reincarnations of people without bodies, visions, both mine and theirs. There are too many people in this room, I know that now, but I can't get an accurate idea of how many without first being able to see them. Might as well go down fighting. After all, what have we got to lose? Bradfield, a 4th pilot who is very pessimistic, decides he has something to contribute. "We could lose our lives, maybe?" At least, I think it's Bradfield. It could be any one of these unseen people. "I might as well give it a shot," says Connor. "If I can't see any of these men, can they see me?" "Or get shot?" I look down at my body, but all I see is floor. Holy moly! I've not been aware of my body, just my voice and my thoughts. That's all I've been since I've been in here, a voice and mind. That's what I am, a voice and thought. I need to continue before I disappear completely. Say something! Might just as well, yes, show them that we are not totally weak. A quote comes back to me from some point in time, past or future. I am what I think I am. What am I? I'm a voice and thought. No, that's wrong. I'm a human being. I know I am, therefore that's what I must think I am. So how come I am currently a voice and thought? Because I had taken my body for granted. I was not currently as aware of it as I was when I was hungry last, or hurt, when my body is sending messages to my brain, when there is something wrong. I am a human being. To make sure of that, I'll hurt a part of my body, which has just drifted back into a focus, though not a very good focus now that I think I have a body. I smash my arm against the wall. As the shot of pain runs up my nerves, my arm reappears with it. A success. I think I have a body, therefore I have a body. I continue the process on each of my limbs to ensure success, and lo and behold, I am! Have we got any chance at all of beating them? Asks Bradfield. I take a deep breath. I don't know what to say. I need to make them think they are what they think they are, and therefore they can be, because right now they are not. But as I think about the size of the guns and the amount of destruction that they could do, that we do not have a chance, I can see that they too are thinking along similar lines. They are thinking about their bodies. Success! I can see each of them fading slowly into view as they remember their limbs whilst imagining them being blown off. But I don't want to scare them off completely. Yes, we have got a chance. And I promise that we'll all be back in time to open our presents and have dinner with the rest of our families. Strike. As they think about food, they start getting hungry. And they are what they think they are, humans. And therefore, they can be humans with bodies. I take it won't just be us? No, there'll be plenty of others out there with us. Well, that's a bit of a relief, he sighs. And I agree with him, as I can now fully see the people that were once not fair at all. Although I'm sure that we won't be needing so many people out there. I'm sure that we'll have gotten to them before too long. I keep feeling that I have to be very careful from now on. If I forget for a second my body, I could disappear forever. It's a scary thought, but for now, I use the others as a gauge. When they disappear, I'll know that I too could be on the way out. Yet, I still have to be careful. I could be thinking too much about the others and not myself, and again, disappear. How will we recognize them? I think about the photographs that I've seen in my hand. Right now, it's important to think about my hand. I don't want that to go. The alien craft are certainly very obvious. They appear to have no wings for a start. You will recognize them, trust me. They're aliens. They'll be ugly buggers. Probably have about 20 arms or something weird. I laugh. But it makes me think. If I think I can be, if I think I can disappear and not be, would it at all be possible to think that I can have 20 arms and be with 20 arms? I won't do it now. I don't want to scare anyone, least of all myself. But it's a question I can take away with me. Bradfield feels he has a more important question. How are we gonna fight them? Hopefully not, man, to... I pause, trying to think of what they could be called. Whatever. No usual tactics. Just get in there and fight. Well, I think that's all for now. Meet you back here for 0500 hours tomorrow. We'll be fine. They all get up and leave, leaving me behind. I think I have 20 arms. Therefore, I have 20 arms.